Unlock your future. How tomorrow's 11:11 portal can save you. You might think you missed it. You might think these dates are for the grandiose, for the polished, for the people who have perfected their manifesting rituals and loud declarations. That assumption, believing you need to be finished, fixed, or flashy, is exactly why tomorrow's 11:11 can find you. Because this particular portal isn't designed for spectacle. It meets the honest, the exhausted, the quietly surrendered. It meets the person who is done performing and finally willing to be themselves. Tomorrow is not a promise of instant miracles. It is not a stage for dramatic makeovers. It is a moment in time when timing and readiness align, and when subtle architecture does its most efficient work, undoing what drains you and opening a small, decisive gate toward what you can actually carry. In that sense, yes, the portal can save you. But save here means something precise: protection, reorientation, and the gentle revival of a potential that had been paused. It is a course correction, not a spectacle. Before we go deeper, pause for a single minute. Name one thing you have been forcing, aloud, in your head, or on a scrap of paper. Just one. The task you keep proving, the relationship you keep justifying, the role you play that costs you energy. Hold that thin line of truth. Keep it with you as we move through what this 11:11 portal is likely to do and what it most will not do. Here's the part most people miss. 11:11 is not two identical ones clapping for attention. Think of the numbers as a simple machine with three parts: intensity, direction, and simplicity. The day is 11, two ones, sharp and concentrated. The month is 1, single, pointed, forward. The year reduced to a 1 draws the equation tighter. A moment of increased intensity aimed with singular direction and stripped of complexity. That's the architecture. It's not mystical jargon. It's a way to visualize timing that favors clarity over noise. Imagine a doorway. On a typical day, dozens of doors might be nudged open a little. Small opportunities, faint nudges, half-promises. On a day like 11:11, the mechanism is different. The portal focuses on one door and pushes it in a way that matters. Not every door, not every dream, not every relationship. 1. Selective, not scattershot. It's like a lighthouse narrowing its beam into a corridor rather than lighting an entire shoreline. Why does it do that? Because systems, psychic, social, internal, are more responsive to precision than to volume. Your nervous system, after years of attempting to chase every possibility, often needs one clear opening more than 10 vague ones. When readiness and timing meet, the universe's quieter currents tend to conserve energy. They redirect what's unnecessary, protect what's salvageable, and nudge you toward where your attention can actually grow something sustainable. Now let's be clear about what readiness looks like, because the portal favors it over flashy intention. Readiness isn't perfection. It's not having all your wounds healed or all the logistics arranged. Readiness is a kind of honest stance. The willingness to stop proving, to stop performing, to admit quietly that something isn't working, and to choose a different kind of attention. It's admitting the small, unglamorous truth. I'm tired of carrying this. That admission is the portal's most receptive soil. Here's how that difference plays out in life. Consider 3 archetypal scenes. First, the pause project. You started something years ago. An idea, a business plan, a creative pursuit, and life asked you to put it down. It sits bookmarked somewhere in your mind, a soft ember. On 11:11, the portal may not give you overnight success. Instead, it might rearrange the landscape. The commitments that siphon your time loosen, a conversation with a practical ally appears, or your inner critic shifts just enough so you can pick the ember back up without burning out. The effect is protective. It prevents you from throwing your energy at the wrong thing and gives you a narrow, clear path to attempt it again. Second, a relationship in limbo. Perhaps you've been clinging to a role, friend, partner, caregiver, out of habit, guilt, or identity. The portal's nudge can look like an unexpected cancellation that frees time, a message from someone who fits who you are now, or a quiet release of obligation that makes space to reevaluate. It doesn't force endings or produce tidy reconciliations. It simply loosens ties that have been pulling you away from what's truthful so you can move with less friction. Third, the job or identity that never quite fit. You have been wearing a badge, title, routine, image that matters less and less. The portal may not hand you a new job with a bow. More likely, it creates a protective rerouting. Small windows of respite that allow you to explore. A lowered urgency that makes community interventions possible, or a less reactive nervous system so you can step into new choices without the momentum of exhaustion. In each case, the portal targets the single most impactful traction point, the place where if something shifts, it changes the rest. Not a reset. Listen to the word that actually matters here. Reorientation. The portal does not promise to fix everything at once. It is an architectural adjustment. It is more like recalibrating the compass than changing the map. What was previously pulling on you loses its sharpness. What was paused has the possibility of being touched again with new clarity. That distinction saves you from the most common mistake, expecting fireworks and then discounting what happens because it's not dramatic enough. Here's what honest surrender looks like in the small, practical textures of your life. It is not capitulation. It is not shrinking. It's a quiet pruning. Picture a gardener who stops insisting that a diseased branch must continue to bear fruit. The gardener doesn't give up on the tree. She chooses to cut what is draining the system so the rest can breathe. Similarly, honest surrender is saying, I am done proving this to others. Or, I will no longer perform for the idea that I must always appear capable. Or, I will let go of the story that to be loved I must keep producing. Those admissions are not weakness, they are pivots. The portal hears that kind of truth. Contrast that with loud intention setting. Loud rituals, grand declarations, high-energy performances, all of which have their place, tend to be about visibility. They create momentum by volume. But they can also create noise that hides what's actually out of alignment. The portal cares about the quiet interior signal. It listens to the small, honest confessions that often happen in the dark. The breath out when you stop defending, the private list where you admit what you can't do, the whispered decision not to keep sacrificing well-being for an image. The portal responds to that softness, not to the shouts. Here are some subtle signs you might notice in the days or weeks after the portal has its effect. These are not guaranteed outcomes. They are typical patterns, small, plausible changes you can watch for and steward. 1. Decreased reactivity. You feel less pulled into panic or drama. Situations that used to ignite immediate defense now arrive as data. You can respond rather than reflexively react. There is less adrenaline, more clarity. 2. Unexpected cancellations or openings. A meeting gets postponed. A commitment seems to fall away, or a new possibility arrives that fits without forcing. It's less about luck and more about free time and attention. 3. Revival of an old project. The spark you shelved returns, not with pressure, but with a new kind of clarity, a truer sense of what you want to try again, and what support you need to not repeat the past. 4. People who align with who you are now drift into your orbit. This isn't dramatic matchmaking. It could be one person who says the simple, helpful thing you needed to hear, or an ally shows up in an unexpected way, making a particular step feasible. 5. Emotional detachment from draining obligations. There's a sensation of lift, less guilt, less obligation, around things you used to carry because you felt you must. That release is protective. It conserves your energy for the places where your attention actually restores you. 6. A quiet, practical redirection. Instead of a sweeping transformation, you get a small reroute that changes the trajectory. You may take a different route to work, choose a new order of priorities, or decline an invitation you used to accept out of habit. If you notice some of these, your role is not to expect miracles. Your role is to steward the opening. That means making small choices that preserve your capacity, saying no to the next unnecessary demand, protecting the new margin you have been given, and tending to the revived ember with patience and practicality. The portal often gives you a sliver of advantage. What you do with it matters more than any expectation that the universe should do everything for you. There is also a protective subtraction at work, less flashy, more profound. Protection through subtraction means saving your attention from what saps it. Think of a phone battery. Sometimes the most effective way to extend charge is to close background apps. The portal often closes the most energy-consuming background apps in your life, whether those are internal, shame loops, identity scripts, or external, obligations, draining relationships. That subtraction is the core of the portal's saving function. It's not the arrival of something grand, it's the removal of what was quietly eroding you. Now for a critical caution, you cannot recreate this moment by ritualizing it. The power of a timing event like 11/11 is bound to its timing, and the psychological readiness present in that moment. Repeating actions, repeating numbers, or building elaborate rituals in the belief that you can force the same doorway open again misunderstands the mechanism. The portal's value is its singularity. It's like a train that stops at a platform for a limited time. You don't control the stop time, you control whether you board when it arrives. There are two common traps here. One is the garment of urgency, believing you must perform perfectly to deserve the opening. The other is the temptation to monetize or package the event into prescriptive steps. Do these 7 rituals and you'll be saved. Avoid both. The bridge the portal forms is psychological and timing-based. It responds best to honesty, not to overcompensating noise. Let's return to the theme of salvation because that word can ring with theological baggage. When I say the portal can save you, I mean it in a narrow human sense. Protection, recalibration, and the prevention of a wrong turn that would lead to exhaustion or compounding loss. It can remove or diminish the things that were drawing you away from where you could thrive. It can give space for a potential that was put on hold to be noticed and tried again. Is not a guarantee of prosperity, instant healing, or a rescue from all consequences. It's a small, realignment-based salvation, one that preserves your capacity to proceed. If you want to recognize when your life is being shepherded by this sort of timing, cultivate the habit of noticing. That means paying attention to small shifts in your inner weather. Ask quick questions in the morning. What feels suddenly less heavy? Where did I find myself less defensive? What small obligation eased? What ember flickered back? These questions are not meant to create pressure. They are meant to tune your awareness to the quiet architecture of change. There are simple practices that align with this tuning without turning into rituals or formulas. They are about observation and care. For example, carry a pocket notebook for a week. When something loosens, write it down. The moment, the small event, the feeling. Over time, these entries become a map of where the portal's subtle work shows up for you. Another practice. Choose one small boundary to uphold, a brief no to something you always said yes to. See if the world adjusts without catastrophe. These are experiments in stewardship, not spells. You may still wonder, why does it often feel like nothing happened when days like this pass? The portal's work is rarely spectacular. Its outcomes are delayed and protective. Some changes show themselves only after months, once accumulated subtractions and slowed reactivity allow a new project to breathe. Imagine a dam that cracks a tiny hairline, unseen and slow. Only later do you notice the river has found a healthier course. That's the kind of delayed effect we're describing. Patience, not impatience, honors it. Another tension to expect. The portal favors one area of life. This can be frustrating because when the one area shifts, other areas might still be messy. You might get clarity about a job and still have relationship questions. You might free up time and still feel scattered creatively. That's normal. The portal chooses impact over total renovation. Think of it as a lever, one decisive shift that shifts the rest, slowly, rather than a machine that rebuilds your entire house overnight. When that lever moves, there will be practical moments where you must choose. You must protect the margin. That could mean accepting a help that arrives even when it's imperfect, or declining a sentimental demand that keeps you busy. Trust the test of usefulness. Small choices that protect attention tend to nurture whatever the portal has revealed. Resist the temptation to immediately amplify visibility. Don't rush to show the world your change. The portal's openings are often fragile. Their resilience depends on steady attention more than publicity. Let me offer a few mini vignettes, archetypal, not prescriptive, that illustrate how this often plays out. One, the quiet teacher who had been taking night classes while draining herself in a job that never fit. On 11/11, she didn't win awards overnight. What happened instead was practical. An unexpected colleague offered to swap some responsibilities, a required weekly meeting shifted, and suddenly she had 2 extra hours. She used those hours to write again, to test an idea. The portal didn't give her fame. It gave her the margin to find a path forward without burning out. 2. The person whose identity had been wrapped in caretaking. The portal didn't cause a dramatic breakup. It provided an event that removed a persistent obligation. An old volunteer commitment fell away. And with that removal came a small, crucial question. What do I do with the time that is mine? The person learned to use it to rest, and later to try a small creative pursuit. No fireworks, only a steady recovery. 3. The entrepreneur who'd been pouring money into expensive, flashy courses and never finishing. After 11/11, the pattern that had been draining resources began to look unsustainable. A friend suggested a simpler alternative. An unpaid pilot project gave clearer feedback than the next expensive program. The portal didn't hand success. It weakened the pattern of chasing shiny solutions and strengthened the ability to test with low risk. Each of these stories shares the same grammar. Tiny subtractions, afforded margin, and the returning possibility of effort applied differently. The portal's saving is often that accepting pause, the moment structure that prevents repetitive harm. You may ask, what prevents this from becoming an excuse to wait, to say, I'll let the portal save me? That's an understandable worry. The portal doesn't absolve you of responsibility. It gives you a certain edge, an opening. Your task is to notice and respond with grounded choices. The best approach is to combine receptivity with small, sensible actions. Protect the time, say no to the compulsions that used to consume you, and experiment with revived potentials in ways that don't risk exhaustion. Receptivity without action becomes passivity. Action without receptivity becomes force. The portal's wise use is the meeting of both. If you're wondering how to be ready in the practical, non-magical sense, here is a short list of attitudes that increase your sensitivity to what the portal may afford. None of them are rituals, none are guarantees. All of them are simple practices of attention. Honor honesty. Say beneath your breath one true admission about what is draining you. Keep it private if you prefer. Honesty is the portal's language. Protect margin. When something loosens, guard that time. Don't immediately fill every freed minute with replacement obligations. Observe. Don't narrate. Record small shifts without making grand stories about them. Journaling with restraint creates a map rather than a myth. Choose one small experiment. If a paused project reappears, try a low-cost, low-stakes way to test it. See what sticks. Be kind to the nervous system. Small rituals of rest, short walks, quiet meals, mindful breaths aren't magic. They're plumbing. They let you notice the small openings without panicking. These attitudes keep you practical and open. They respect the portal's timing rather than trying to outmaneuver it. Let's close with the real reveal. The reason this portal can unlock your future is not because it suddenly invents new destiny for you. It unlocks future potential by subtracting the unnecessary and aligning what remains with your honest attention. When the things that pull you thinly are released, the parts of you that can build, nurture, and sustain get the space they need. That is the architecture of salvation we have been describing: protection, course correction, and reactivation of paused potentials. You don't need perfection to be found by this portal. You need clarity about what you cannot carry any longer and a willingness to stop performing around it. If you arrive exhausted and honest, tomorrow's 11:11 is well suited to the work of gentle correction. If you arrive loud and performative, chances are its effect will be minimal, because the portal listens for private truth more than public theater. So here is a final, practical invitation. Move gently through tomorrow. Pay attention to what loosens. Keep a small journal for the week and note any shifts. Protect the margin you're given. If a paused dream reappears, test it with low stakes and steady attention. Remember that this portal's value is tied to the moment and your readiness. It cannot be manufactured on demand. Treat the experience like an unexpected act of mercy, a chance to stop carrying what has been draining you and to begin carrying what you can sustain. If this landed with you, journal tonight. Write one thing you have stopped proving. Keep it private if you prefer. Let that sentence be the simplest compass for the days to come. The portal can save you, not by throwing you into a fantasy of instant reversal, but by creating space, removing drains, and allowing what was paused to be re-examined with clarity. In that precise, quiet way, it can unlock a future that fits who you are becoming.